As always, LSU is in the mix for the best talent in college football. Number one currently in the SEC, number three in the nation in recruiting, with a whole lot to go, of course. But June has been crucial, and LSU is hosting some of the better players in the country as we make our way toward July, and looking forward to some commitments as we get through the summer. We got Lon Phillip Sullivan on the line. Of course, LSU Odyssey. We always encourage you to head on over there to get the latest on the LSU football team, with SEC Media Days just about 3 weeks away, and then right into August camp. Hey, Lon, what's going on?
Mark, it's going fantastic. How about you, my man?
I'm doing well.
Hey,
I'm awaiting the latest.
Hey, 49 years ago to this day, Led Zeppelin had a barn burner at the LA Forum, a 4-hour endless show on their Houses of the Holy tour. Mark, today LSU had a 4-hour barn burner in Baton Rouge on campus. This is the final weekend before the dead period. It was fantastic action, and it's continuing as we go.
I would count on you, Lon, to make that connection between the two. All right. So, that in mind, what should LSU fans be excited about right now?
Well, there's a few 5-stars coming up on this campus. It's kind of interesting. You think the big names have all come and gone. This is the last weekend. There's no more big names. I disagree. There's a few guys here that could be big time for LSU. Armani Winfield, Texas commit, receiver. He hasn't been extremely productive. The yards don't just pop out at you when you look at his statistics. But that's because this kid's going against 6A. He's going against the best in Texas. This kid is an unbelievable talent. I wouldn't say he's better than DeColdis Crawford. I wouldn't say he's better than Shaz Preston. But with his size, with his speed, it's interesting. I really like Armani Winfield. And you got to see him hanging out with Walker Howard, Will Campbell, 2022 5-star LSU commits there at quarterback and left tackle. And, of course, they've been there. They've been present for every single recruiting visit they could possibly make. And they were there trying to see if a flip could be made there with Armani. Anthony Lucas, 4-star bordering on 5-star DT, coming out of Chaparral there, Scottsdale, Arizona. LSU we're not really looking and pursuing for defensive tackles this class. We already got Ty'G Hill, and then you look at what we got last class with Mason Smith. I mean, we already have Jacobian Guillory, Jaquelin Roy on roster, Neil Farrell, Glenn Logan Jr. I mean, the names go just one after another for LSU at the defensive tackle position. Joseph Evans as well. There's so many options there. So Ty'G Hill, we got him. He's the solid commit there at defensive tackle. But Anthony Lucas is showing to be another prime option here. Anthony Lucas did put up some pretty solid numbers. Defensive tackle, he had 13 sacks in the last 2 years and an interception as well to his name. It's very interesting having him there on campus, him making the commitment to come all the way from Arizona. That says a lot. Sonny Styles, Mark, out of Pinkerton, Ohio, 5-star safety. Big-time 5-star safety. The 247 composite has him as the number one safety over Kamari Wilson for the 2022 class. He's always felt like a Notre Dame commit to me. It feels like Marcus Freeman's doing a great job there, that he could be, more of a Notre Dame lock. However, it says a lot that he's pursuing an SEC scholarship going to Alabama. And then right after that, him and his mom go to LSU. And, he was geared up today, having a great time with his mother. It seemed like he spent the last 2 days or at least day and a half in Baton Rouge. Had a good time with the staff. I'm really not sure if he's an LSU take there. I'm not sure if he's too interested. But I know LSU would really love to pursue him, and that will probably continue. 33 tackles, 4 interceptions, 4.7 tackles per game in 7 contests this last year. He took Pickerington clear to the state title game. He's a fantastic safety option there. Evan Stewart, Liberty receiver. I'm iffy on our chances with this guy. I feel like he's a tad overrated. I feel like there's better Louisiana receivers. But Evan Stewart showing that commitment to come to LSU to say, you think I'm overrated? You think there's better Louisiana receivers than me? I want to see him shut me up. I want to see him punch me in the face out there at camp. I want to see him work out for Mickey Joseph and just completely do a show-stopping performance there. Evan Stewart, iffy with LSU, but at the same time, it shows a great interest in the Tigers program and their national brand that we're getting these 5-star guys to come here. And then we also got Jadarian Rhyme coming to campus for his first visit. This guy, he's gone through a lot. Him and his family, they suffered some tragedy lately. That's why he hasn't been able to come to campus and make a visit. It's fantastic that this young man has been able to make it there to campus. Welcome, Jadarian. I hope you have a hell of a weekend, and glad you made it, my man.
All right. Man, that's quite a lineup there. I will say that according to Max Preps, that Armani Winfield, as you mentioned, the stats aren't real eye-popping, but obviously he is a premier playmaker, or he wouldn't be ranked as he is. 37 catches, about 16 yards per catch, and 4 touchdowns. Anthony Lucas, as you mentioned, to grab what would be the number 1 player out of Arizona, bring him all the way across the country there, and Sonny Styles. So he's an Ohio State legacy. His daddy played there, linebacker for the Buckeyes, and went on to the Atlanta Falcons. St. Louis Rams, played in the NFL there, and Notre Dame seems to be, as you just mentioned, according to 247 Sports, the strong confidence pick there. And then again, Evan Stewart, top 10 rated player in the state of Texas, top 5 wide receiver in the country. And he's in play, although Texas seems to be the lean there.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman, I think the reason he's leading that race for Sonny Styles is because he's an Ohio State player himself. I think it works against Ohio State, the fact that this Notre Dame, juggernaut over here with Marcus Freeman potentially already has the Ohio State connection as their defensive coordinator.
So who do you feel good about that's in the running, whether it be this collection of players or some of the other big 4 and 5 stars that LSU's in the running for? Who feels like they're leaning your way? Who feels like is probably slipping away? And you already obviously touched upon some of those guys.
I feel like who's leaning LSU's way, that's got to be Emory Jones. I feel like this guy, he's going to commit to LSU. Offensive lineman, this out of Catholic, Baton Rouge native. I feel like he's a slam dunk. He's a fantastically versatile offensive lineman as well. Shaz Preston, there's not a lot of talk about the end game there with Shaz, where he'll end up. I don't feel like there's an Alabama attraction there. I don't feel like, even though his brother played at Mississippi State, still plays at Mississippi State, that would be an attraction for him. I still feel like Mickey Joseph's been on him for too long, since 8th grade, that I feel like he's going to I think he's going to be a Tiger. Kendrick Law, I feel like he's a guy who's solidly a Tiger. I feel like he's going to continue to lean that way. He's extremely versatile. You got Durante Jones recruiting him, wanting him to be potentially a safety, maybe even a safety corner hybrid, maybe a nickel guy, one or the other. And then you got Jake Peets also recruiting him to be a receiver, potentially even a running back. Shamar Stewart, though, Mark. Shamar Stewart, I feel like he's leaning away from LSU. There is talk about how do I put this? Shamar and somebody, an adult of some sort, came to LSU asking for something, and LSU were not going to do that. And that's not been confirmed. That's not been completely substantiated, but that is a big, huge rumor. That's not just coming from me. It's coming from a lot of different corners that they were looking for something LSU were not going to provide. And so I don't feel like Shamar Stewart will be coming to LSU at this point. He's an excellent defensive end. 48 tackles off the edge, outrageous 15 sacks during that pandemic-shortened junior campaign. But I just don't see it with the news we've heard. Kelvin Banks Jr., 4-star. This guy, him and his family had a great time with the Tigers. It's kind of gone quiet since then, as the visits continue. But I feel like Kelvin Banks Jr. will eventually commit to LSU. I feel like there's such a good relationship there with Coach Brad Davis, and they were able to really fall in love with Baton Rouge, him and his family. We'll see if that is true love. Quincy Wiggins, Mark. This guy needs to get his 5th star. It's ridiculous that he hasn't gotten his 5th star yet. But taking visits to Florida, as he just posted on his Instagram today. But he's taking a lot of visits. Alabama's in play there with Pete Golding going hard. I just feel like there's too many connections with Louisiana and LSU. I feel like he's going to stay. I feel like he's going to stay with LSU. Jamon Tapp, defensive end out of Ascension High. He's gone on a tour for himself, where he's gone to Clemson and a bunch of other schools. I'm so on the fence with Jamon Tapp, because there's one day where I feel like he tells me things like there's no other place like home. Jamon Tapp told me the more he visited places, the more he was like, there's nowhere better than Louisiana. And he said Louisiana is its own culture. That's what his quote was. So I feel like he would want to stay home with the strength of that quote. But at the same time, there's so many coming after him: Florida, Alabama, Louisville, Georgia, USC. He's just because his name isn't in bright lights as one of the sexy names does not mean that Jamon Tapp isn't one of the talented beasts off the edge of this 2022 class. He's got to be in that top 5. Demario Tolan at linebacker, Mark, out of Dr. Phillips. I feel like he will come to LSU. That relationship is strong with Coach Blake Baker. I believe when I saw what Demario Tolan rocking that number 8 in purple and gold, the look he was giving Blake Baker and the look Blake Baker was kind of giving him back as they were kind of just chit-chatting while these photos were going on. It was very father figure. I really loved what I saw there, and I feel like that is a bond that's just become even more strengthened from that visit. Sean Murphy, linebacker out of Unity Reed, I think he got more from the coaching side of things. During the camp, during the workouts, when he was being coached by Blake Baker, he was very receptive, and he loved Blake Baker's style of coaching. I'm not sure. I'm still on the fence with Sean Murphy as to whether we'll get this high-octane, fantastic coverage linebacker. But he is definitely in play, Mark. Julian Armea out of St. Thomas Aquinas offensive line. Ed Orgeron tried to get his father, Enzo, and he failed there. And he's trying really hard to get Julian, and there's a lot of buzz with Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's son, tight end, also out of St. Thomas Aquinas. That would make 4 LSU Tigers out of that school, with Marcus Dumerville and Marlon Martinez already on roster. There is that connection with the school in Florida, St. Thomas Aquinas, but I'm not hearing anything out of Julian Armea's camp. I'm going in there blind when I'm thinking about Julian Armea after the initial kind of buzz of info. It's just been completely nothing. So kind of on the fence there, Mark. 5-star linebacker out of Cy Park, Harold Perkins, one of my favorite players of the class, Mark. This guy, 47 tackles in 10 games, 14 and a half tackles for loss, 6 pass deflections, 13 in the last 2 seasons, a pick 6 as well, forces 3 fumbles, recovers another, and then he rushes for almost 1,000 yards. I think it was 983, 14 rushing touchdowns as well. He even caught 371 for 3 touchdowns. This dude is an absolute athlete. 93 tackles over the past 2 years, Mark. Harold Perkins, he's got a great uncle, his uncle Kevin, who's a big-time New Orleans Saints and LSU guy right there in New Orleans. He's pushing LSU hard. And Harold and his family were having a great time with the Tigers. They're putting on the purple and gold and dancing around. They put those videos all over Instagram, and it was hilarious. It was awesome. It was a good time, and I think that family wants to come back to their Louisiana roots. I feel like Harold Perkins is a definite take. He's coming back to LSU. You can book that. Yeah, there's plenty of targets. Mark, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep going. If you've got more info and more insight and your perspective on anybody else that LSU's tracking right now, absolutely, we'll take it.
Hell yeah. Damari Alston, 4-star running back out of Woodward Academy. Mark, this guy, like I said last time, he's perfect for our offense with Le'Veon Moss taking off to go to Alabama. Understandably, all of our blessings to you, Le'Veon, but Damari Alston, he is that guy. I think he really digs the Tigers. I think he loves what the program's offering, especially coming from Kevin Falk. I think Kevin Falk's been more confident coming into year 2 at running back coach. I think Damari, I think he'll be coming to LSU. Eli Henderson, center out of Burns. This guy comes out of nowhere, 3-star. He's not really highly touted. But here's the thing. Brad Davis, he got his commitment at Arkansas while he was there under Sam Pittman, the head coach there at Arkansas. But can Pittman keep Eli Henderson, the much-needed center for LSU, there at Arkansas? Can he keep him from Brad Davis? I'm not so sure. I think Eli Henderson, forget the rankings. This dude, he's built for the battles on the inside. He's 6'4", 290. His snapping is fluid. He always snaps in the shotgun formation. He's built for that. Another great hallmark of LSU's offensive structure. And he shows the versatility at guard as well. There's a lot of mechanisms that Brad Davis can pull to make this flip happen. And I feel like taking the job at LSU almost books that. Kamari Wilson, the safety from IMG, Mark. I really want this player, Mark. I think next to Kendrick Law, Kamari might be my favorite player of the class. Durante Jones has been going after him the second he got the job. He's really good friends with LT Welch, 2022 cornerback commit for LSU, and he's got some friends there. He had a great time coming here on campus. He's talked about Durante Jones' NFL pedigree. And I don't know. I don't hear much from him. I know he's being an entrepreneur as he goes on his trail. As he goes on his tour. He's going to sell himself, but then he's going to make sure those schools are selling themselves to him. Kamari is going to be one of those guys that it's going to be very tough to get, Mark. I think he's going to be the toughest outside of Shamar Stewart to get in this class. But there's a few under the radar guys. Manny Powell, linebacker from Canton, Ohio's McKinley High. Mark, I know you'll be excited about this guy. One of your home state dudes. This guy, man, he possesses the right kind of stuffing abilities needed in the SEC. He already has the size, the hard-hitting, the acrobatic athleticism. He's really breathtaking inside linebacker. I don't know how this guy's a 3-star. His ability to just, kind of pick through the traffic and just boom, the last second. he's 6'3", 225. I really like him. He runs a 4.440 as well, and a verified sub 11 second time at the 100. This young bruiser's speed is outrageous, and he's only getting quicker as he polishes his technique ahead of a colossal senior season. Mark, I feel like Manny Powell has been underrated way too long. Everyone go check out Manny Powell's 2022 profile on LSUodyssey.com. Give this kid some support. This kid deserves it. He's getting some offers, but he needs to get even more. This kid has some fantastic ability out there, Mark. Bryce Anderson. I feel like Bryce Anderson won't be coming to LSU. I feel like he's too in demand. I feel like there's too many spots taken up with Sage Ryan, Matthew Langlois, Jacoby Matthews. Walter Nolan is another guy I don't feel like is trending LSU's way as well. I feel like we already have enough defensive tackle help, and we're kind of keying on a guy after Tyji Hill. It would be great to have Walter Nolan, but I don't think we're going to get that 5-star. But yeah, Mark, there's definitely this is one of the deepest classes we've seen in a long time. Have you seen a class this deep, Mark?
It's pretty incredible, the talent at all the positions across the board. And I can't really peg any particular position of strength, but I'm not a recruiting guy, but at the same time, I deal with it every year with guys like you. And so I get the secondhand knowledge coming to me as I post the videos and, of course, do the analysis, again, thanks to guys like yourself. So I'm not the recruiting guy, but it seems to be an extremely deep class.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the thing, Mark. When I'm talking about a guy like Eli Henderson and I'm getting all fired up, it's because go watch that dude's film. I'm talking about a guy like Manny Powell, a 3-star out of Ohio. And
I'm looking him up right now. He's from right down the street from where I grew up, about 20 minutes away.
I thought of you instantly. I was like, we got to get this guy to Mark's radar. Manny Powell. This dude, I mean, he will take you to church out there, Mark. This guy, he's a savage. And I really like this guy. I really like rooting for him. He could play for any school in the country.
Quite a list from Lon Philip Sullivan here, breaking down LSU, the commits that are already in play, which is 11 hard commits right now. And then I don't know how many you just ran down that are targets right now, hoping to get their fair share to maintain a top 5 ranking in the country. All right. This wide receiver, Jalen Hale, you got notice just prior to us coming on here that the 5-star from 2023, he's going to visit. Is that what we heard?
Oh, he's already on campus taking those photos. He's having a good time there in Baton Rouge right now, hanging out with Walker Howard, Will Campbell, and the gang, Big Willie style. Walker and Will, they've been there every visit. It's a strategy by this brilliant coaching staff to have these pinnacle guys that everyone wants to play with there every time. I mean, the players are becoming the best recruiters, and Walker, Will, they're there every time, and they're going after the 2023 guys too.
So, Lon, I mentioned off the top with 11 hard commits for a top 3 ranked recruiting class in the country, and obviously there's a whole lot to have happen before December, but they're certainly well on their way to a great recruiting class here. So I'm going to leave this wide open for you to shine a spotlight on a current commit. So we got 11 commits. Pick one out and give us just your thumbnail on one particular player.
Just so one of those commits to LSU, current
one of the commits we've already received here at LSU. Just one guy that you would like to highlight.
You know what? Jake Johnson. There was a coach at LSU who I really want to name right now, but I was told by one of the premier recruiting analysts in the country, don't do that. That'll be that'll be a violation. But one of the top coaches at LSU said, Jake Johnson isn't a tight end. he's a weapon. And that's what I was exactly feeling from watching his tape. Watching him with Max during his sophomore year, he's just leaping over guys, making these tyrannical catches, Mark, like they were nothing. Terrace Marshall kind of leaping grabs like that touchdown to seal the title against Clemson. But then he's burning people on these slants. Jake Johnson, he's not going to get the ball 12 times a game at Oconee. That they run a more bruising, power-driven offense. He knows that. I've talked to Jake about this. He understands that he's going to have limited opportunities. He understands that more than anybody. He's the one who is educating me on how he's going to approach his senior season. And I feel like his hard-nosed, intense approach for this senior season is only going to help him when he goes to LSU next year and plays with his brother. I feel like you watch his tape and you watch him burning some of the best corners out there. Off the line, Mark. You can't call him a tight end. He might be one of the best players overall in the country. I feel like he easily would be in the top 5. Watching what he did, just completely desecrating some of the best coverage guys out there off the line, making people like drop their jaws. My phone was blowing up from people I'd never talked to saying, "Oh my gosh, Jake," because they remembered the few interviews I had done with Jake before that, and they just were so excited about, "Oh my gosh, Jake Johnson, oh my God." And it's like, I've been trying to tell people this. He's not just Max's brother. He's an absolute dominator out there. He could play with any quarterback in the country. He could play in any offensive system. You can put him pretty much anywhere on the football field, and he's going to be effective for you. Jake Johnson, he's got the size. He's 6'6", 225. When the craziest thing, Mark, when you watch his footage from that last camp, the LSU camp, where he absolutely just arrested people out there, just destroyed people, he was doing that recovering from a torn quad. He had told me that, kept that on the down low. But then after that camp, we were doing his profile, and I said, "Jake, I have to tell the people that you did that on a torn quad. You have to let me tell the people, because we got to get you your 5th star." And, he said he didn't give a damn about a 5th star. And I was like, I get that, but it's about respect at some point. It's got to be about respect. You went out there with a torn quad and did that. He's recovered now. He wants me to make that sure in my articles that he's fully recovered, as he showed in that camp. He's ready. But the fact that he was rusty after a torn quad, partially torn quad, he comes back in there and does that type of a performance at that camp. He was already an LSU commit. He had nothing to prove. He could have just stood on the sidelines. Instead, he went out there and competed his ass off. And that's why I have complete respect for not only, Jake and the way he works, but the way he's been raised by his mom, Nikki, and his dad, Brad the Bull Johnson. I feel like a really awesome grade A family there.
Jake Johnson is the 2nd-rated tight end. Regardless of what Lon tells us, he is categorized as a tight end here. So we got Jake Johnson as the 2nd-rated tight end in the country, 6'5", 235, 7th-rated player in the state of Georgia, number 81. That is the 247 Sports Composite. And want to just remind everyone that we're fortunate enough to get Lon Philip Sullivan from LSU Odyssey on here, because he has done a tremendous job helping us out specifically with recruiting, but just a number of facets of this LSU program. If you haven't heard Lon's discussion with myself and him basically reviewing the Darius Guice case and everything that involves the LSU situation in recent years, going back to the Les Miles days, please look up that video and check it out, because Lon really does a tremendous job in reviewing the documents that are stated and confirmed out there, the conversations that he's had. You can tell from listening to both the football oriented coverage that he does, but also the off the field stuff that is related to the program. That he has a number of great connections with players, with former players, with future players, as he just mentioned with Jake Johnson, parents, family, and a number of other contacts there. So it's really good stuff. So, Lon, we always appreciate you stopping by. Now, it's
Thank
just
you,
come
Mark.
out recently here about Darius Guice and the charges dropped that were levied against him while he was a member of the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, strangled his girlfriend at the time, and allegedly, and was arrested on the scene, immediately released. Those charges were dropped in Virginia court. That immediately led to a major reaction from some LSU fans saying, he's innocent. Darius Guice is innocent of this crime, at least. But that line of thinking could not be more wrong, Mark. There's an obscure Virginia state law that allows the perpetrators and victims of domestic violence cases to come to a financial agreement, a settlement, in exchange for charges to be dropped. That is not on the books in many states, but it is in Virginia. That was what I think Darius Guice's lawyers found, that loophole, and said we have to bite the bullet and pay this woman off to get these charges dismissed, because without that, Guice was looking at years in jail. It was a horrible act that was allegedly committed, and he was able to pay off and get those charges dismissed incredibly. Now people are rushing to talk about his NFL future and all this stuff. Who cares? Who cares? It's just one more messy, poisonous thing that comes from this whole situation. And they all stem from the acts of a sexually immature misogynist, Darius Guice.
And it takes away from the sport, takes away from our enjoyment of the sport. More importantly is obviously the physical and emotional and mental suffering of the victims themselves. But just to get back to the sport itself, and it detracts from the decent young men that play the sport, because then they're attached to these type of incidents themselves and grouped together. But when you have hundreds and hundreds of players that run through a program over the course of 5 or 10 years, unfortunately, the probabilities tell us that some of them are going to commit these types of acts, and then again, then others are attached, and that's connects them in the public's perception of football players at LSU, for example, and that's an unfair result of all this as well. All right, Lon Philip Sullivan, LSU Odyssey. Please join him there. Check out his work there. Anything else, Lon?
One last thing, Mark. One last thing. I was speaking with someone who was affected by Darius Guice in the past, and they said in the aftermath of this news, he's getting away with it. That's what they told me. I want them to know right here, right now, he will not be getting away with this. No matter how long, how far this goes, he will not. We will not rest. We will keep reporting that story. We will do whatever we can to make sure the truth is illuminated. Thanks, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on. As always, you run a really good show here. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, sir. Go Tigers.